And can I introduce Dr. Karen Poutasi? Karen is a very experienced civil servant. She's spent 25 years in senior roles in health services management, and she's had extensive experience in change management. She was previously Director General of Health, and so she worked together with Anthony Hill for some periods of time, and Dr. Karen Poutasi was appointed Chief Executive of the New Zealand Qualifications Authority in May of 2006, and she is going to talk about public law tools in the education sector. Thank you, Dr. Poutasi.
Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa, ngā mihi nui kia katoa katoa. It's a pleasure to be talking with you with some appreciation that this is coming towards the end of a longish conference. So I'm rather pleased that I'm not quite last on the agenda. I'll hand that over to my colleagues to the left of me. But as Mai says, we are on time. Full credit to you, Mai. And I think we've all had bludgeoned into us that this is a very circumscribed space of time that we have. So I'm sure that we'll all keep to time. New Zealand Qualifications Authority is a Crown entity responsible for assessment in senior secondary schools. This is in case you're not aware of our functions, and quality assurance in the tertiary sector. And the link between the two of those is the New Zealand Qualifications Framework, which we're responsible for. Now, our work draws on a significant amount of public health law in the education field, giving us statutory functions that underpin our work. Now, we're all speaking in the category of working with stakeholders. And so in doing that, I'm actually aware that some of the points that I'll make have been conveyed by earlier speakers, but again, at this hour of night, you might be pleased to have some of the points reinforced. The Public Health Toolbox is empowering, and in similar fashion at NZQA, we want to be responsive to our stakeholders. And in NZQA, we call it client responsiveness. And we talk about being robust and responsive. And this is where I come to the yes but. And I think we have a valued staff member who once raised the point when we were talking very much about client responsiveness and being robust and responsive. This staff member raised the issue of saying, yeah, yes but, how do I do that? I can be robust and I can be authoritative and I can give effect to our statutory functions. But if I'm doing that, how do I get to be responsive? I'm going to say no to somebody. I'm going to say no, their application for approval to deliver a course, a program of study, is not good enough. I'm going to say no to that, and I have to. How do you expect me to be responsive? And I actually thought it was a really good point. The answer is, of course, it's not but, it's and. If we are going to say no, we need to do that in an atmosphere of mutual respect. We need to do it in a timely fashion. We need to do it from the point of view of understanding the business of the provider, because they have to run run advertising that says we're going to run this program next year, and if we take a year to tell them, then that's not helpful. It's not understanding their business. So you can be absolutely robust, and we must be, but you can do that with an empathy that respects the business of the person with whom you are running that authoritative line. And I've been known to say, if we're going to say no, we have to actually be even more responsive in saying no than if we're saying yes. But don't hold me to that, because we need to say yes in a responsive fashion as well. So it's not either or. It's and. It's robust and responsive. Next point. Litigation is the last resort. Now, Justice Blanchard covered that this afternoon, so I'm not going to dwell on it. Success is actually not having to use litigation. Better solutions are highly likely to be achieved short of that. If we have clear processes, if there are no surprises, if there are clear expectations, then we ought to be able to go a good way along without needing to use litigation. Of course, if there are no other options, litigation is the option of last resort, but only if that, thinking about the toolbox that we have, is the only tool that we can actually use to make things work. And finally, we all come to issues with different perspectives. We all look through different lenses, whether those are different cultural lenses, whether it's a provider lens, whether it's a business lens, whether it's not-for-profit, whether it's government lens. And therefore, transparency, by its very nature, means that no matter what lens we're using, transparency actually facilitates engagement. The Public Law Toolbox adds to transparency. And it was Martin Luther King who said, "Nothing in the world is more dangerous than sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity." And that's an alert for us all, because we can all do sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity. But Mai's toolbox speaks to us all in that regard, and it's about having an open mind if we are to be genuinely robust and responsive. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa.